All right, we are live, and I'm so excited to be talking with Emily Schmidt today. Hi, Emily.
Hello. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you. So, Emily, you and I grew up together, like in school and going to church together, and so we have a long relationship. And it's been fun in recent years to watch as you've taken on like a whole lot of really interesting and fun projects. So, would
Thank
you
you.
mind just introducing yourself? Kind of like, what are your credentials?
Sure. Yeah. I grew up in St. Louis Park and did a lot of like improv comedy in the Minneapolis area and ended up going to NYU for TV writing and, a major that my parents were, rightfully skeptical of and luckily it paid off. I'm currently a writer and a co-executive producer of Ghosts, which is a comedy on CBS. I've also written on Welcome to Flatch, which was a short-lived comedy on Fox. Um, Also, the sort of kids and family show No Good Nick on Netflix. That was my first staff writing job. Also worked on Girl Boss on Netflix
Yeah,
and was an on-set joke writer for the feature movie Blockers.
awesome. An on-set joke writer. So when they need just like a little moment of whimsy, you're there.
Well, basically, you're looking at the scenes that are being filmed and you're looking at all the jokes and you're thinking, okay, how can I make each of these jokes potentially better?
Yeah,
And just writing. It actually was like sort of being thrown into the fire on like joke writing and not being too attached to my jokes. And you would just like run them in and they would look them over and be like, no, none of these. And you're like, that's fine. Or you'd get to hear John Cena say the stupid little joke you just came up with. So
that's
just
so
like
awesome.
punching up a lot of big comedies have writers on set that are just constantly punching up the
Yeah.
script.
Well, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's the a part of the behind the scenes stuff that is I appreciate hearing. That's very fun.
Yeah.
So I was really excited to talk to you because at Fabric we've been doing this series called Fabric TV Plus where we're looking at like what are the TV shows that we're watching and how does what we watch give us a lens to look at our lives through, like who we are at our relationships, stuff like that. So we've watched The Rehearsal, and we've watched a little bit of Stranger Things and Andor, and then this upcoming Sunday we're doing Fallout.
Okay.
So a little
Cool.
darker, but
Sure.
the moment we're in kind of calls for it in the Twin Cities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Very
So
cool.
I wanted to talk to you as somebody who is a writer, but also as somebody who is a comedy writer, like in particular also. And so I don't know exactly where I think I want to just start with, like, I know like you live in California, you're in LA, but you're also very connected back home here in the Twin Cities.
Yeah.
And like, what's it like to be kind of holding what's happening both in the Twin Cities and across the country in tension with writing comedy in a moment like this for me has felt really important, and I don't know if I have the words for why. So yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. And yeah, I acknowledge I do not have the hardest job in the world. I feel very lucky that my job is to come to work and sit in a room with a, group of really funny people and just, talk about what makes us laugh. I feel very fortunate, but it is really hard in these times to feel you almost have to give yourself permission to sort of like turn that on, because if you're so in this heightened sense of dread and concern and anxiety and worry, um, you have to really put that on the back burner in order to open up your brain to like find what's fun, find what's comedic. And you know I know that that's a totally different practice than like comedy writers who are on like The Daily Show or Colbert or things where they have to also stay like politically, socially tuned in at work also. Like this job feels pretty disconnected from what's happening in terms of like the content that we're talking about. So that's been a challenge for me like since 2016, since 2020, like really being able to shift, but also knowing that like humans can't stay at that level 10 of anxiety and dread. And if I'm able to contribute to creating something that gives people 23 minutes of something else,
Yeah.
of some laughter, of some, certainly not closing your eyes to what's happening in the world, but giving your nervous system a chance to like recalibrate,
Mm,
that feels you know, important. I mean, also thinking about how there's like joy is resistance, and comedy I think fits in that as well. Like if we can find ways to take care of each other, which includes making each other laugh, giving each other a sense to like just like an opportunity to take a breath. Um I feel like that all is part of it.
yeah. Well, I think that's deeply true. The people I feel the most concerned about are the ones who have been at level 10, like you said, in the kind of anxiety and maybe fear and anger, where like that's the only default posture. That's like the baseline.
Yeah. And like
Yeah.
this is the long game. Like unfortunately, like we're in this now for the long haul, which I think Minnesotans understand better than anyone else in the country right now. And it's essential to take care of yourself in that so that you can keep fighting.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So what do you, I mean, you've kind of alluded to like, if you can get like we need laughter to give our nervous systems a break in moments like this. What do you think the role of art and artists and comedy and comedians and like how do you kind of see that societal role going
Yeah.
forward in this moment? Because like you said, I think we are in it for the long haul. And even if ice were to be abolished and all of the agents, you know dealt with however, like there's still trauma and there's still hurt and there's still
Mm.
massive effects of all this. So yeah, go ahead. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think catharsis is so important for humans. I feel like a lot of times storytelling and art in general allows us to tap into feelings and emotions that we may have a hard time articulating or unpacking on our own. And to experience that vicariously through like a character on screen, I think can give people tools to deal with things like grief and fear and anger, um, in their own lives. I think Stranger Things is a great example of that, of like, what is the upside down? Like, what is that for everyone? Like, what does it mean to like go into the darkness and, fight for something you believe in, fight for your community and yourself? I feel like um, really good TV, film, theater takes us on that journey. And I feel like as someone who writes stories, it feels important to take care of the viewer, knowing that that is like part of what you're giving to people,
Yeah.
is that journey. And I think it often can, yeah, create parallels to things that we, yeah, truly just can't articulate,
Yeah.
like grief. And yeah, I think when it's done well, it can be really helpful for people. I think we also have all these great examples of justice and like good versus evil that are like archetypically shown
Yeah.
in stories like since the Bible. Like I think we
Right.
see like the hero's journey over and over again. And unfortunately, a lot of people have ended up assigning the wrong parts to
Yeah.
their, yeah, who the good guys and the bad guys are. You're like, wait a second, like, didn't you see Star Wars? Like, didn't you see
Yeah.
these movies? Um, like you've seen Marvel movies, like you have to understand who the good and bad guys are. But when people get it, I think they're able to like see what it looks like to have justice, to see a beginning, middle, end story play out for the hero, and it's easier to like put yourself in that situation and then do good, or like
Yeah.
fight against things that are scary.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
Make that parallel.
I think that is so true. I mean, just last week I was talking about Andor, and sort of the complexity of that show. That it's in the world, it's in the Star Wars universe, so there is that sort of archetypal good and bad and light versus dark and like all of that kind of stuff, and there are situations that get presented to us where we have to make some decisions where it doesn't feel so clear cut. And so to have stories, in my own life for this moment, like to have stories where I can go, oh, um, this has been a human thing for a
Yeah.
long, long time.
And how
Um,
I'm feeling is how that character was feeling, or yeah, I can put myself in their shoes
right?
and act with bravery, and yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wonder for you, I'm going to ask the question, I'll give you a minute to think about it. But like, as you think about your life as a storyteller, but also just your life as a human who also like has laundry to do and chops carrots for stew and like does normal things.
Yeah.
Um, what are like, what's a story or two that is just like ingrained in you, maybe from like childhood or something that really has given you either a helpful or an unhelpful lens about yourself?
That's a really great question. I I feel like a movie I compulsively watched as a kid was Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
And I really feel like this deep sense of like you can always go home, and there are people you meet along the way. There are evils that you have to triumph over. There are problems, there are challenges, but this idea of like getting home where you're safe and loved, and
Mm-hmm.
that they were always with you the whole time in that journey, I feel like I can relate to.
Mm.
Um yeah, and then like from a comedic perspective, um it's interesting. I feel like as a kid, I was like really tall. I was like hanging out with the adults. I was like drinking Diet Pepsi with the moms. Like really was not.
You totally were too. That's funny.
Yeah, I was like, how can I be friends with my teachers? Like, really just felt off. But then I sought out on my own shows like Designing Women and Golden Girls, and just compulsively watched those because I felt like I related to those characters, even though I had, it seemed like I had very little in common with those characters. But I think like TV and movies can help you feel seen in a way that you don't expect, and like feel okay in the world. And weirdly, like those shows did that for me
Yeah, yeah.
at that time.
Isn't
Yeah.
that the Golden Girls? I remember you being a big fan of the Golden Girls, and I had never watched it. So now every time it pops up, recently my little social media algorithm has kicked off like Betty White talking about being from Minnesota and like what
Yes.
makes us special is our people, like that
Love it.
line. I'm like every time I see Golden Girls, I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. This is good.
Yeah.
Emily
I
was
was
right.
super obsessed. I would record it on Lifetime and then bring the VHS tapes to sleepovers. And my friends were like, what is going on?
What are we doing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Loved it.
I mean, given that the choice between Golden Girls recorded off of Lifetime and like the latest straight to VHS Mary Kate and Ashley
Sure.
flick, I feel like you got You had the better choice there.
I was elevating our sleepovers.
Yeah, exactly. It was a classy experience.
Of course.
That's awesome. I one of the stories that just like haunted me as a kid. I read um The Giver by
Mm-hmm.
Lois Lowry. Do you remember that
Hmm.
book? Did you ever read
Yes.
that? My
Yes.
God, it was like one person. I felt this strange affinity with that character, but also a deep injustice about it. That like, why would one person or a select few be the ones that have to kind of suffer and hold the beauty for an entire
Uh-huh.
community? That's
Yeah,
absurd. And it's I think it's really like I don't know, informed how I want to democratize and flatten systems.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. That's so interesting. That's really
Yeah.
cool. That's
Let's
really
go
cool.
Lois Lowry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Radicalizing kids. I love it.
I know, right? Yeah. Yeah, I guess I don't want to take up too much time. I know you're on lunch break right now, right?
I am. I'm at Paramount Studios right now.
Oh my gosh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in my kitchen. Welcome. Um, I guess the last thing I would just want to get at is like for for you, what's your kind of like word of encouragement or a word of wisdom or something as a professional storyteller to people who maybe don't see themselves as storytellers? um because the reason I ask is that I suspect that the moment we're in right now, not just in Minneapolis but like in our country, in the world, and also as a human species, as a storytelling people, like we need to practice telling our stories. And
Yes.
I'm curious kind of what you would say to somebody who maybe doesn't see themselves as a creative or as a storyteller.
Being a storyteller is like the most human thing. We all have an inherent sense of story and honestly an inherent sense of story structure.
Mm-hmm.
Like not to get too particular about it, but we all know what the beginning, middle, end of a story feels like. Like we know like the climax of a story because we see it in our lives. We have been consuming it since we were able to read and watch TV and movies. And your story inherently matters because it is specific to you,
Mm.
and no one has your perspective, no one has your voice. And I teach pilot writing classes, and I sort of say something similar to this when people are like trying to think about what they want to write a pilot about. They're thinking about these crazy worlds or these crazy characters and they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, what is your story? Like, it's impossible for that to be boring because no one else knows it.
Yeah.
And you think about shows like Girls or Fleabag or, these shows that have like very, very grounded basic premises, like premises. Oh my God, I'm
I
tired.
think that's right.
Um,
Yeah.
um, that they are interesting and compelling to watch because it is different than our experience. So it's, there's a lot of, it can be self-conscious to write things about yourself or feel like you're not good enough or not creative enough, but I can also promise that like the very best most professional writers in the world feel the exact same way at all times. Writing is hard in general, and if you have it within you to tell a story, like it will matter and you should.
I love that. Thanks for that. That's a good reminder. I think we definitely all do have something to say. We all have a say. I was at a okay, last thing and then we'll be done.
Yeah, yeah.
I was at a in Kentucky at a distillery, and there was this guy who was doing like the tour, and he was doing tastings of whiskeys for us and talking about his family history, and like all sorts of stuff was tied into this, and all of a sudden the whiskey wasn't whiskey, it was like an experience that we were
Yeah.
sharing in his family history. I mean, like I could listen to somebody tell their story
Hmm.
all day.
That's
It's
so
just the thing.
cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Yeah, and like even I'll just say it's a little bit of a tangent, but when I was several years ago trying to write a pilot to get hired, and was like sort of coming with like a complicated premise. And um, while I was doing that to procrastinate, I was like getting really obsessed with ancestry.com, and was like just really like using all my free time on that. And I ended up deciding to write a pilot about like a 20 something who accidentally conjures her great grandma from a 1917 dairy farm, because I just was like, I wish I could meet this woman that I found on ancestry.com. And I just wrote a pilot about it. And that ended up getting me staffed on shows, and ended up being a pilot that everyone loved because it just was so true to my experience in that moment. And so, yeah, it's the things that spark us, that we want to learn more about, that we're curious about, um, our stories that end up being the most compelling.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think I would love to hear more about the journey of ancestry, because I think that there's a whole lot there, but
Yeah,
we'll go there the next time we talk.
sure.
Yeah, thank you so much for just your generosity of time and
Oh, so happy to
helping
talk.
us to get into this a little bit.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
of
Where
course.
can we follow your work and watch Ghosts, and tell us all the things?
Yeah, Ghosts were in season 5. I'm very grateful that we've kept going this long. We are Thursdays on CBS and also on Paramount Plus. You can watch all the seasons on Paramount Plus, and then yeah, we're coming back February 26th. I think is when we have our next new episode. And then, yeah, we're definitely back for season 6 after, and then we'll see what happens after that.
Awesome. Well, congratulations
Thank
on
you.
the ongoing success of the show,
Thank you
and
so
thanks
much.
for all you do to help us see ourselves through comedy and in storytelling.
That's generous. Thank you so
Yep.
much.
Absolutely. Thanks, Emily.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.